Tonight, we dive into a case that is as heartbreaking as it is perplexing. A woman captured on a trail camera in the middle of the night, wandering alone with nothing but a stick to support her. Days later, her body would be discovered in a wooded area behind a National Guard armory in North Carolina. For years, she remained a Jane Doe, until recent DNA tests finally revealed her identity: Amber Rae Johnston. But with this revelation comes even more questions. How did she end up there? Who was she running from? And most importantly, was someone responsible for her death? Stay with me as we unravel the mysterious and tragic story of Amber Rae Johnston. The quiet town of Wadesboro, North Carolina, was known for its rolling landscapes, thick woods, and the National Guard armory sitting on the edge of an expansive forest. But on May 12, 2022, those woods became the site of a disturbing discovery, one that would unravel a dark mystery. A hiker, making their way through the trees, had strayed slightly off the main trail. It wasn't unusual. The area was vast, and the deeper sections of the forest often went undisturbed for long periods. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth, and the rustling of leaves underfoot blended with the distant calls of birds. But then, something out of place caught their eye. At first, it looked like an oddly shaped branch jutting from the ground. But as the hikers stepped closer, their stomach clenched. A bone, pale, weathered. And nearby, partially buried under layers of leaves, more skeletal remains. Panic surged through them. Their breath came in short gasps as they fumbled for their phone. With trembling hands, they dialed 911. Within minutes, the stillness of the woods was broken by the distant sound of sirens. Law enforcement arrived quickly, securing the scene with yellow crime tape. The officers moved cautiously, their faces grim as they examined the remains. The body had been there for a long time, long enough that decomposition had reduced it to bone. There was no flesh left, no immediate way to determine the cause of death. The forensic team began their work. A few key details were quickly established. The victim was a woman, Caucasian, somewhere between 20 and 40 years old. What remained of her clothing told its own eerie story: a black bra, a pair of leggings, no shoes, no personal belongings, no ID. There was nothing else, no purse, no wallet, not even a scrap of paper that might provide a name. It was as if she had simply ceased to exist, leaving behind only these final fragments of her presence. Detectives scoured local missing persons reports, but nothing matched. No one in Wadesboro had reported a woman of that description missing, and without more information, the case stalled. Weeks passed. The remains were examined in forensic labs, but without dental records or DNA matches, she remained unidentified. A nameless victim, lost in the woods, with no known past and no clear cause of death. Then, something strange happened. A clue emerged, one that sent chills through the investigative team. Months before the body was discovered, a hunter had placed a trail camera deep in the woods, hoping to capture images of local wildlife. Instead, the camera had recorded something far more unsettling: a woman. She appeared in multiple frames, moving through the trees at night. The images, grainy and black and white, showed her wearing only leggings and a bra, the same clothing found on the remains. Her posture was slouched, her movements slow and unsteady. She gripped a long stick, using it as a makeshift cane, as if struggling to walk. The images painted a haunting picture. She was alone, wandering aimlessly through the dense woods, her body language almost ghost-like. There was no one else in the frame, no sign of anyone following her. Had she been lost? Had she collapsed and never made it out? Or had something far more sinister happened? Investigators studied the images carefully, comparing them with the forensic details of the skeletal remains. The resemblance was uncanny, but they needed proof. Then, after weeks of painstaking DNA analysis, they got their answer. Her name was Amber Rae Johnston. With a name, the case took a turn. Who was Amber? What had brought her to these woods? And most chillingly, how had she ended up dead? The discovery of her identity only deepened the mystery. What had she been running from? And why had no one been looking for her? One thing was certain. Amber Rae Johnston's story was far from over. It was only just beginning. Amber Johnston was more than a nameless victim found in the woods of Wadesboro, North Carolina. She was more than a mystery captured on a trail camera. She was a daughter, a mother, a woman whose life was marked by struggle and resilience. But in the end, she became a tragic story, one that still leaves more questions than answers. Amber was born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a city known for its blue-collar roots and tight-knit communities. Her early years were like those of any other child, playing outside, making friends, navigating the ups and downs of growing up. But as she got older, life became more difficult. Amber struggled with addiction, a battle that gripped her for years and led her down a path of hardship. Run-ins with the law, moments of instability, and toxic relationships defined much of her adult life. She had brushes with the criminal justice system, and at times it seemed as though she was fighting a losing battle. But through it all, one thing remained constant: her love for her 5 children. Despite her struggles, Amber was a devoted mother. She wasn't perfect, far from it. But those who knew her say she always tried. She wanted a better life for her kids, even when she couldn't seem to find one for herself. Her mother, Jarett Johnston, described her as someone who had been working to change. Amber had tried to get clean, to leave behind the chaos that had consumed so much of her life. She had moments of hope, of progress, but addiction is relentless, and so is the past. And then came Jarett Ward. Ward was the kind of man who left destruction in his wake. He was known for his volatile nature, his criminal history, and his ability to manipulate those around him. When Amber met him, it was like a storm colliding with an already fragile structure. Those close to Amber had concerns. Her mother had warned her. Friends had told her to stay away. But for reasons only she knew, Amber remained entangled with him. Maybe she believed he could change. Maybe she felt trapped. Or maybe she was just too deep in the cycle to find her way out. What's clear is that after meeting Ward, Amber's life took a darker turn. In the months leading up to her disappearance, Amber seemed to be in distress. She was moving from place to place, her contact with family growing more sporadic. At times, she appeared frightened, paranoid. She stopped showing up where she was expected, stopped answering messages the way she used to. And then, she vanished. No phone calls, no social media activity, no explanation. For a while, people assumed she had simply gone off the grid, something not entirely out of character for her. But as the weeks stretched into months, the silence became unsettling. Her mother grew desperate, reaching out to anyone who might know something. Then came the discovery in Wadesboro, a Jane Doe in the woods. It would take months before forensic testing identified the remains as Amber. But by then, the biggest question remained. What happened to her? How did a mother of 5 from Pennsylvania end up alone in the woods of North Carolina, captured by a trail camera, only to be found as bones? And where was Jarett Ward? The answers were elusive, and the deeper investigators dug, the more disturbing the picture became. Amber had fought demons her entire life. But in the end, had she fallen victim to one she couldn't escape? Or had someone made sure she never got the chance? Her story wasn't over. It was only beginning to be uncovered. Jarett Ward, a name that would come to be spoken in hushed tones, always tied to the mystery of Amber Rae Johnston's disappearance. He wasn't just a footnote in her story. He was a central figure, a shadow that loomed over her final days. Their relationship was anything but stable. Those who knew them described it as toxic, a whirlwind of drugs, manipulation, and alleged abuse. Amber, already struggling to keep her life together, had become entangled with a man known for trouble. Jarett had a past, a criminal record, a history of violence. People who crossed his path often found themselves worse off for it. He was controlling, unpredictable, and, according to some, dangerous. Amber's mother, Sharon, had worried from the start. She had seen the warning signs, had pleaded with her daughter to walk away. But addiction and control can create a prison, one where escape isn't as simple as walking out the door. In August 2021, Jarett told authorities that he had last seen Amber in Bullhead, Arizona, a small city along the Colorado River known for its desert heat and transient population. According to him, they had been traveling together when he decided to leave her there. He claimed he had taken a trip to Las Vegas to secure a Greyhound bus ticket back to his hometown near Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Amber, he said, was supposed to be making her way back home to Pittsburgh. But something didn't add up. Why would Amber, a woman with limited resources, be left to fend for herself in a strange city? If she had been heading home, why had she never reached out to her family? Why had she vanished without a trace? Her phone was silent. No calls to her children, no messages to her mother, no posts on social media, just silence. Authorities took note of Jarett's version of events, but skepticism lingered. His story had gaps, details that didn't quite fit. If he had really left her in Bullhead, why wasn't there any evidence of her making travel arrangements? No bus tickets in her name, no confirmed sightings, nothing. The days turned into weeks, then months. Amber remained missing. And Jarett? He moved on, carrying on with his life as if nothing had happened. It wasn't until her skeletal remains were discovered in North Carolina that the timeline became even more unsettling. How had she gone from Arizona to North Carolina? If she had truly been left behind in the desert, how did she end up thousands of miles away, deep in the woods near Wadesboro? And why had she been seen on a trail camera, barefoot, half-dressed, stumbling through the trees with only a stick to support her? The more investigators dug, the more disturbing the story became. People who had known the couple started speaking out, painting a picture of a volatile relationship, one where Amber was often afraid. There were rumors of fights, of bruises hidden beneath long sleeves, of desperate attempts to break free. But every time Amber tried to leave, something, or someone, pulled her back in. And then, one day, she was gone. For her family, the pain of not knowing was unbearable. Jarett Johnston couldn't shake the feeling that Amber hadn't just disappeared, that something had happened to her, something terrible. And the one person who might have had the answers? Jarett Ward. Yet, despite the suspicions, the inconsistencies, the unsettling timeline, there was no concrete proof, no confession, no witness, no clear cause of death, just a skeleton in the woods and a trail of unanswered questions. Amber Rae Johnston had vanished, and Jarett Ward had walked away. But was he the key to unlocking the truth? Or had he made sure that truth would never be found? Amber Rae Johnston's final days were a tangled web of unexplained incidents, conflicting reports, and unsettling encounters, each one adding to the mystery surrounding her disappearance and death. By August 2021, Amber's life had already spiraled into chaos. She had been drifting between places, caught in a toxic relationship with Jarett Ward, and struggling to regain control. But what happened on August 8th was something her family could never make sense of. That day, Amber was in Arizona. Somewhere along the way, she had met a man, someone she barely knew. The two of them had gone swimming together, though the details of how and why remain murky. But what happened next would leave even seasoned investigators scratching their heads. Amber had left all her belongings, including her ID, on the shore before going into the water. When the man returned with a flotation device, she was gone. Just like that. Panic set in. Had she drowned? Had something pulled her under? Authorities were called. A full-scale search was launched. Drones swept over the water, rescue teams scoured the shore, and divers searched beneath the surface, fearing the worst. And then, without explanation, Amber turned up safe. For her mother, Jarett Johnston, The incident was deeply unsettling. Nothing about it felt right. Amber, she insisted, would never leave her belongings behind with a stranger. She was cautious, especially with people she didn't trust. So why did she do it? Theories began to swirl. Was she already running from someone? Had she sensed danger and used the swimming trip as an opportunity to disappear? Or had someone been watching her, waiting for the right moment to strike? And perhaps the most chilling question of all, did Amber know she was in danger? For those who followed her case, this incident felt like an ominous prelude to what was coming, a warning sign that something was very wrong. But the mystery didn't end there. In the days following the swimming incident, Amber seemed increasingly unstable. Witnesses reported seeing her disoriented, wandering without clear direction, sometimes looking over her shoulder as if she feared she was being followed. Some claimed she had been trying to make her way back to Pittsburgh, but there was no clear proof. Others believed she had been traveling with someone, possibly Jarett Ward, but there were no confirmed sightings. The timeline became murky. By the time Amber was captured on the trail camera in North Carolina, barefoot, using a stick as a cane, her journey had taken a terrifying turn. How did she get there? Who, if anyone, had she been traveling with? And why had she been left alone in the woods, miles from civilization? No one had answers. Only a series of strange events leading to a devastating conclusion. Amber had survived the water, but she wouldn't survive what came next. By August 16, 2021, Amber Rae Johnston had left Arizona, or at least that's what people believed. Where she was actually headed, or who she was with, remains one of the most unsettling parts of this case. Jarett Ward, the man at the center of her troubled relationship, told one story. Amber was coming back to him. But those who truly knew her, like a close friend who had been in touch with her during those chaotic last days, told another, Amber wanted out. She wanted to escape. She wanted to break free from Jarett's control, from the cycle of abuse, from the drugs that had kept her life spiraling. She wanted to go home, to Pittsburgh, to her family, to the children she had always loved, despite the struggles she faced. And it seemed she had taken steps to do just that. Records show that Amber had purchased a Greyhound bus ticket to Pittsburgh. It should have been the moment everything changed, but she never boarded the bus. Somewhere between her desperate plan to return home and the moment her skeletal remains were discovered in North Carolina, Amber vanished. Then an eerie clue surfaced. A video appeared on Amber's social media, a short, silent clip showing a Greyhound bus traveling through Birmingham, Alabama. At first glance, it seemed like confirmation. Maybe she had made it that far. Maybe she was still making her way home. But something about the video felt off. For one, Amber never contacted her mother or children. No messages, no calls, nothing to reassure her loved ones that she was okay. Even more disturbing, authorities later came to believe that Amber herself had not uploaded the video. Someone else had. The realization sent chills through those following the case. Who had Amber's phone? Was she still alive when the video was posted? Or was someone trying to cover their tracks, creating the illusion that Amber was still on the move? By the time police traced Amber's final moments, the trail had gone cold. A bus ticket to Pittsburgh left unused, a cryptic video with no explanation, and a woman whose last known image would be captured not on a bustling city street or in a safe space with family, but on a trail camera deep in the woods of North Carolina, stumbling through the night, lost and alone. Whatever had happened to Amber in those final days, one thing was certain. She had been running from something, but she never made it home. August 19th, 2021, Charlotte, North Carolina. This was the last place Amber Rae Johnston's phone ever sent out a signal. It was a moment that should have been insignificant. Just another stop in an exhausting journey. Just another transaction at a truck stop. But in hindsight, It marked the last verifiable trace of her existence. According to Jarett Ward, Amber had used his SNAP benefits card at a Flying J truck stop that day. That was the last time, he claimed, that he had any knowledge of her whereabouts. But how did she even get to Charlotte? And more importantly, where did she go after? The truck stop encounter. The Flying J truck stop, like so many others, was a transient place. A brief pause for truckers, travelers, and drifters. It was a hub of movement, of people coming and going without a second glance. Security footage was never released, if it even existed at all. But authorities were left questioning. Was Amber alone when she was there? Did she leave on foot, or did someone pick her up? And why had she been using Jarett's SNAP benefits card if she was supposedly trying to get away from him? One thing was certain. After that transaction, Amber was never seen again. Then, silence. Shortly after the truck stop, Amber's phone went completely dark. No outgoing calls, no text messages, no social media updates. For someone who had previously been active on her accounts, even if just to post cryptic videos or reach out to friends, the sudden silence was deafening. Her family tried calling, texting, anything to reach her. But the calls went straight to voicemail. Had she lost her phone? Had someone taken it from her? Or was she no longer alive when it stopped transmitting? Theories begin to form. With no clear answers, speculation took over. One theory suggested that Amber had met someone at the truck stop, perhaps another traveler, perhaps someone she knew, and left willingly. Maybe she was still trying to reach Pittsburgh. Another, much darker possibility was that she had been lured into a dangerous situation. Truck stops, especially at night, had been linked to criminal activity, drug deals, human trafficking, violent encounters. Had she trusted the wrong person? And then, there was Jarett. Despite his insistence that Amber had simply disappeared after using his card, many found his story difficult to believe. If Amber had been trying to escape him, why was she still using his resources? Had she actually made it to Charlotte on her own? Or had Jarett, or someone connected to him, played a role in her disappearance? The fact that her body was later discovered in North Carolina only deepened the mystery. Charlotte was over an hour away from Wadesboro, where Amber's remains were eventually found. How did she get there? Did she walk? Did someone drive her? And the most haunting question of all, was she alive when she arrived? A vanishing act that left only questions for Amber's family. The silence that followed August 19th was unbearable. Days turned into weeks turned into months. The world moved on. But for those who loved Amber, time had stopped. They held on to hope that she was still out there, that she would eventually reach out, that there was some explanation for her sudden disappearance. But deep down, a darker fear lingered, that whatever had happened after that truck stop, whoever she had encountered, whatever decision had been made, Amber was never going to make it home. She had simply disappeared into the night, and no one seemed to know why. For nearly 3 years, Amber Rae Johnston remained unidentified. Her remains, discovered in the woods of Wadesboro, North Carolina, offered no immediate answers. No missing person reports matched her description. No fingerprints led to a breakthrough, and the case remained stagnant. Then, in early 2024, everything changed. A breakthrough with DNA technology. Forensic genealogy had become a game-changer in solving cold cases. As advancements in DNA testing improved, investigators turned to genetic databases to find answers that had long eluded them. Law enforcement submitted a DNA sample from the skeletal remains found in Wadesboro, hoping modern science could finally uncover her identity. The process was meticulous. Forensic specialists built a family tree, tracing distant relatives and analyzing genetic links. Eventually, the evidence pointed to one name: Amber Rae Johnston. She was no longer just an unidentified body in the woods. She was a daughter, a mother, a woman with a life that had been tragically cut short. A mother's worst fear confirmed. For Sharon Johnston, The confirmation brought a wave of devastation. She had spent years clinging to hope that Amber was still out there somewhere, perhaps starting over, perhaps trying to rebuild. The silence had been agonizing, but now she knew the truth. Amber had died alone. Her body had been left in the wilderness, exposed to the elements for months. The haunting images captured on a trail camera, showing her walking through the woods, leaning on a stick for support, were not just eerie photographs. They were the last glimpses of her existence. She had been alive in those moments, struggling, lost, and possibly in distress. And then, she was gone. A case reopened, but answers remain elusive. With Amber's identity confirmed, law enforcement officially reopened the case, hoping to piece together what had led to her tragic fate. Investigators revisited old leads, re-examined past statements, and attempted to reconstruct her final movements. But time had already erased crucial evidence. Witness memories had faded. Any physical clues that could have pointed to what really happened had long since disappeared. Despite the renewed effort, the investigation hit roadblocks. There were no definitive signs of foul play on her remains, yet the circumstances of her death remained deeply suspicious. Someone had used Amber's Social Security benefits and SNAP funds for months after she vanished, raising questions about who had access to her belongings. The search for justice continues. Amber's name had been restored, but justice was still out of reach. Detectives continued to search for those who had used her cards, hoping that financial records could reveal new leads. Sharon pushed for the trail camera images to be widely shared, believing that someone might recognize Amber or recall seeing her in those final days. Though the case was no longer cold, the road to the truth remained uncertain. Amber had been found, but the mystery surrounding her death still loomed large. For her family, knowing her identity was just the beginning. The fight for justice was far from over. Even with Amber Rae Johnston's identity confirmed, her case remains filled with mystery. Every piece of information leads to more confusion, and the deeper investigators dig, the more unsettling the questions become. Why was Amber in Wadesboro? One of the biggest mysteries is how Amber ended up in Wadesboro, North Carolina, a town where she had no known friends, family, or history. Her last confirmed location was Charlotte, where her phone was last active at a Flying J truck stop. But Wadesboro is over 50 miles away, and no one knows how she got there. Did she willingly travel there, or was she taken against her will? Was she trying to escape someone and ended up lost in the woods? Did she hitch a ride with someone who had bad intentions? There are no known records of her buying a bus or train ticket to Wadesboro, and she had no car of her own. Who was using Amber's phone? Another chilling detail is that someone continued using Amber's phone and social media after she vanished. A cryptic video showing a Greyhound bus in Birmingham, Alabama, was uploaded to her Facebook. But investigators believe Amber wasn't the one who posted it. Who had access to her phone? Were they trying to make it seem like she was still alive? Was this person involved in her disappearance? After August 19, 2021, her phone went completely silent. No more messages, no more posts, just an eerie digital void. Who was draining Amber's benefits? In the months after Amber vanished, someone continued withdrawing her Social Security benefits and using her SNAP food assistance card. Records show transactions taking place, but Amber was nowhere to be found. Was it Jarett Ward, the man she had been trying to escape? Did someone else take her possessions and use them for financial gain? Could tracking those purchases lead to new clues? Whoever was using her benefits had direct access to her personal information, but law enforcement has not yet named a suspect. The missing bag, a lost piece of evidence? In February 2022, a group of hunters in the Wadesboro area found a mysterious bag in the woods. It was believed to belong to a missing woman, and some suspect it may have been Amber's. What was inside the bag? Did it contain any of her belongings? Identification, clothing, personal items? If it was connected to Amber, where is it now? Strangely, the bag has seemingly disappeared, and its contents have never been publicly disclosed. Accident or foul play? Perhaps the most haunting question of all. Was Amber's death an accident, or was she murdered? Authorities have not officially ruled on her cause of death due to the advanced state of decomposition. No obvious signs of trauma were found on her skeletal remains, but that doesn't mean foul play wasn't involved. Did someone abandon Amber in the woods, leaving her to die? Was she fleeing danger and got lost, unable to survive? Was her body placed there after she was already dead? Without more evidence, the truth remains just out of reach. A case that demands answers. Amber's story is not just another cold case. It is an active mystery that still has the potential to be solved. Somewhere, someone knows what happened. Did she leave Arizona on her own or under duress? Who was with her in her final days? Why was she in Wadesboro, and how did she get there? The investigation is still ongoing, and her family is pleading for answers. Until those missing pieces come to light, Amber Rae Johnston's story remains unfinished, an unsettling puzzle waiting to be solved. Amber Rae Johnston's story should have never ended the way it did. A mother of 5, a woman fighting to reclaim her life, left unidentified in the woods for months. While DNA testing brought her name back to the world, the mystery surrounding her final moments remains, and for those who loved her, the pain of uncertainty lingers. With Jarett Ward no longer alive, many fear that vital answers were buried with him. But Amber's mother, Jarett Johnston, refuses to let her daughter's case be forgotten. She has spent years searching for the truth, refusing to let Amber become just another statistic, a woman lost in the shadows, dismissed and ignored. Authorities now have undeniable proof of Amber's identity, but justice remains elusive. The fact that her benefits and debit cards were used for months after she vanished suggests that someone knows more than they are admitting. Sharon continues to push for an investigation into who accessed those funds, believing it could lead to new revelations. Every transaction, every withdrawal is a thread in the larger story, one that, if followed, could expose the truth. The trail camera images of Amber in the woods remain one of the most haunting aspects of the case. Those grainy black and white frames capture more than just a lost woman. They reveal her isolation, her struggle, her final days. Sharon hopes these images will be widely shared, that someone will recognize Amber's movements or recall seeing her during that time. Every lead matters, no matter how small. Though answers remain out of reach, one certainty remains: Amber will not be forgotten. After years of uncertainty, her family can finally bring her home. She will be laid to rest beside her grandparents, the ones who cherished her, the ones who will now stand guard over her memory. But this is not the end. The search for justice continues, and as long as there are people willing to fight for the truth, Amber Rae Johnston's story will not fade into silence. Amber Rae's story is one of tragedy, mystery, and injustice. A woman on the run, trying to escape a dangerous life, only to disappear into the woods and never return. Was she running from someone that night? Did she meet with foul play? Or was it simply a tragic end to an already troubled journey? One thing is certain: her case isn't closed, and until justice is served, her story must continue to be told. Thank you for watching. If you have any thoughts about Amber's case, let us know in the comments. And if you or someone you know is in an unsafe situation, please seek help. Every life deserves a second chance.